What is up, people of the internet? Joshua Moore, aka Heart Hero 456 here, bringing you another episode of Life Sucks, Let's Fix It. So, if people were going to potentially look at my first episode and think, man, this guy is a complete and total idiot, he doesn't understand misogyny, he thinks that feminism is somehow a terrible thing, and that all of this bullshit is... because I know a lot of people are probably going to get mad at me because I focused on reverse racism and misandry for the first episode of this. But, I doubt anyone's going to call me sexist after this episode, simply because we're going to be focusing on something that's actually pretty fucking messed up in our society, and it has to deal with an issue created by dudes. So yeah, let's actually talk about this. Ladies and gentlemen, we're all about to start talking about good old-fashioned pills. And no, I don't mean like, your ibuprofen, your Viagra, your melatonin, or, the stuff that's prescribed to you by the CVS. No, I'm talking about online idiotic dating advice or, gender empowerment philosophies that don't actually help anybody. In fact, they actively make life worse for the people they claim to try and help. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about the red pill, blue pill, and black pill. Because Jesus Christ, these pills are making me sick. Hey, that's the title of the video. Anyway, yeah. Now, for those of you who don't really know, these pill ideologies kind of sort of came online after a while because a lot of people often took these ideologies from the movie The Matrix, which, by the way, to all people out there who are inherently red-pilled, The Matrix was made by two trans women. So for anyone who's red-pilled and anti-LGBT, yeah, watch the movie again, you idiots. But again, I should probably, be more, focused and structured when talking about these issues, because these are serious problems, especially online and in real life, because these types of ideologies are basically ideologies that a lot of men have adapted to or have taken in because they believe it can help them either, deal with society in a much better, much more easier way, or at least they believe that it'll help them understand society better, if that makes any sense. Which, I don't know how to say or tell this to anybody, but I don't think an ideology that doesn't actually understand societal problems is going to help you understand society as a whole. Because while, yes, there are a lot of things in society that are very confusing, especially for young men, going online and just looking at a bunch of podcasters and a bunch of other individuals and, people who probably haven't even taken so much as, a freaking mental health class or aren't actual psychologists, and listening to them try to tell you about the philosophy of gender, power, and society, it's probably not the smartest decision, Heck, the only reason why I think people should even listen to me is because I'm kind of calling this bullshit out. And realistically, a lot of these things are really just created to prey on young men who are inherently confused by society because, well, men are often raised differently depending on where they live, and a lot of the ways that a lot of young men are raised are often called negative or inherently bad by society as a whole. And, well, a lot of times young men are told one thing about the world, and then they're told another thing about the world, and it just kind of confuses them. Because life in and of itself is inherently confusing, but realistically, because of how confusing life can be for a lot of young men, them going online and seeing a bunch of these people say, hey, I have a simple and easy solution for you, it's something that can and will always lead to a lot of young men getting completely and utterly screwed over. It's kind of like how a lot of religious individuals bring people into their ideologies by saying, hey, you want an answer for your problems? Here's the simple solution. And that's basically what these pill situations are. I say they're basically a cult. An online cult, but a cult nonetheless. And honestly, it's making the world a much sicker place. So let's actually, talk about what these different pill ideologies are and explain my issue with each and every one of them, because trust and believe this shit can and will piss me the hell off in ways that you will probably never really see unless you follow me on TikTok. So I will try to keep my cool when going over all these different things and dissecting them. So let's start off with the red pill. As stated previously, the term red pill originates from The Matrix, the 1999 movie made by, at the time, Wachowski brothers, now Wachowski sisters, where taking the red pill means waking up to the truth of reality. And online, it particularly means that, well, it's more or less about evolving the ideas of how society really works when it comes to the philosophy of gender, power, and society and whatnot. Often centered around the ideas of male empowerment and critiques of feminism. And while I do believe that men should feel empowered to be better men and grow as individuals, and not define themselves by their relationships just to women, but to other people, and obviously build themselves up to be better individuals, and yes, there are parts of feminism that should be criticized because, yeah, there's a lot of feminism that often just straight up ignores other races of women, and don't even get me started on the fact that there are just a lot of feminists out there who aren't actually feminists. They're just misandrists who call themselves feminists and just want to be hypocritical about shit. They'll constantly preach about how they need to protect young girls and young women from predatory men, but then will absolutely be completely silent when a young boy is a victim or when a young girl is taken advantage of by an older woman, or an older woman takes advantage of a younger male. You know, stuff like that. And again, these are things that should be brought up. However, let's just say this stuff goes from mild self-help and focusing on confidence in datings to more extreme misogynistic bullshit. Okay? And one of the first idiotic and just stupid bullshit ideologies red pill people have is their belief in female hypergamy. They believe that women are naturally inclined to seek men of higher social status, wealth, or dominance, and basically always saying that they want to trade up in relationships. Now look, I'm not gonna lie, there are some women out there who will completely judge men solely based on things like their money, based on things like their businesses, based on very superficial shit. Superficial people exist, but this oversimplifies human attraction in a way that just does not actually take into account certain things like personality, emotional compatibility, and shared values with mutual respect. Plus, it also encourages cynicism and distrust towards women in general, which is not how we bring the genders together, you know what? Plus, studies have shown that both men and women value kindness and emotional intelligence more than wealth or status in long-term partners. So while yes, being rich or having a lot of money might help you get laid for like the first few dates, hell, it might even lead to you finding a very nice woman, if you're a shitty dude, that relationship just is not going to last. And oversimplifying women in general like this is just going to add to the distrust that women have towards men. Because again, the biggest reason why a lot of women just aren't dating nowadays is because they are in a society that keeps bringing every single issue men have, like, it keeps putting them under a goddamn microscope and then blasting them for the world to see. Every time a man does something genuinely good, or every time a man is doing good or trying to make the world a better place, it's often ignored because most of the time people don't give a shit. Okay, they don't care about good men. Good men exist all the time. They exist everywhere. They're a dime a dozen. Throw a rock, you're probably going to hit like 17 of them. But when a bad man does something, people can use that as a reason or even as an excuse to get some money off of it. To, you know, create a sensationalized story. And to push out all these ideas that men in general are inherently bad. And sure, obviously these stories are told because there are actual victims who definitely do need help. But a lot of times that's not why people talk about this shit, okay? The news is considered entertainment for a reason. But obviously, because of this, a lot of women genuinely do have a fear of men in general. And oversimplifying their feelings and emotions is only going to lead to that fear growing. So yeah, it's kind of fucking stupid to simplify them to just all women are gold diggers. Then we get to the fucking alpha versus beta male hierarchy bullshit, where basically it claims that men are divided into dominant, desirable alphas and submissive, undesirable betas, and that red pill followers aim to become alphas, which, I'm just gonna be real, if you still believe this in today's day and age, you yourself are just the definition of a fucking idiot. Because, for one, this concept is based on outdated pseudoscientific ideas of dominance, borrowed from a misrepresented wolf behavior study. Which, if you guys don't know, originally there was a scientist that went out and basically studied a bunch of wolves and came back and said, hey, wolves work as in there's an alpha and then there are just a bunch of betas, and the alpha usually mates with the head female wolf and the betas usually don't get to mate at all, and yada yada yada. This is just how wolf packs work. All right, heck, they even threw in the whole omega thing here. In fact, it actually led to probably a pretty decent okay film called Alpha and Omega, made by Splash Entertainment, who would later go on to make that really shitty Ratchet and Clank movie. I went on that small tangent about that because I grew up watching that movie and watching all of the sequels that were released on Netflix. I just had to mention that at one point in my life. I don't know why I went on that tangent. Look, the point is, it was bullshit pseudoscience that the scientists who originally presented to the fucking people, like when they originally presented this idea to the people, they ended up having to go back and do more research because other scientists came out and was like, hey, this doesn't add up. This doesn't make much sense. Maybe you shouldn't publish something like that. You know, because that's how science works. Someone presents an idea, and then other scientists come and take a look at it, and they're like, this don't look this might not look too good. Or, this actually looks pretty solid. So the scientists went back, studied more wolves, and was like, oh shit, I was wrong, and then published his findings saying, okay, so there was no alpha or beta bullshit. That's literally just how wolf families work. It's not that they're just inherently pack animals, it's that they literally have a mother and a father. And the father is just, he's just been disciplining his pups. He's, literally he's telling his male pups to not fuck around and do stupid shit. That's literally all it is. It's just a dad being a dad and a mom being a mom. And because these are wild fucking animals who only have, who literally only care about surviving and shit, they're going to realistically act, very stereotypically like fucking animals who are just trying to survive. Because all wolves care about is where they're going to eat, what they're going to, when they're going to mate, and exactly how they're going to do both of those things. Which, honestly, the fact that, these red pill individuals are trying to compare literally the simple existence of a wolf to the incredibly complex existence of human beings is inherently stupid. Alright? Especially to this day and age. Because the way wolf societies, I guess, work is inherently different than how human societies work. As in, while yes, some aspects like being confident can definitely make you look more appealing to some women, women are not female wolves. They don't have the same level of fucking, they don't go into heat and shit like that. They don't have these, oversimplified animalistic urges the same way wolves do. Alright, there's a reason why most dogs get neutered. And it's because, their animalistic urges can and will take over if they're not trained properly, or if they're not put down, sorry. I don't agree with putting down dogs just because they, make mistakes, sorry. Because they're not, I guess put up properly or trained properly and stuff like that. Like that whole situation. And a lot of people don't seem to get that. Because if humanity was really comparable to wolves, then, for all intents and purposes, we would most likely have a much worse society than we already do. So this alpha male, beta male shit is just, it's really stupid. Plus, it also kind of promotes, okay, it doesn't kind of, it just straight up promotes toxic competitiveness and consistently suppresses emotional vulnerability. Because this whole alpha bullshit, being a stoic protector of everything, like, that's caveman shit, man. We're not cave people anymore. We have Pop-Tarts now. We don't need to go out of our ways and kill mammoths just to feed ourselves for a few weeks. Alright, you want to know how I feed myself for a few weeks? I use DoorDash or I go to Aldi for my groceries. I don't care if people say going to Aldi is cheap. It's fucking food. Okay, we have entire industries built for feeding people. Alright? We don't need to act like stoic motherfuckers to protect our women anymore. We have weapons, guns. They have pepper spray. Like, seriously. And don't even get me started on the fact that this completely ignores cooperative and empathetic traits that can actually lead to strong leadership and fulfilling relationships. Men are supposed to be leaders, or we're, raised to be leaders, but we're raised to be leaders in the sense that we need to understand the people around us and actually know when to step the fuck back when it's something we don't understand. Like, yes, a lot of men do want to be the head of their households, but being the head of the household also means admitting when you are in a situation that you don't understand and when you need to step back and let someone else help you. And that person is usually going to be your romantic partner. So yeah, that's a huge part of being a leader. Jesus Christ. And of course, as I've said, Red Pill is usually it tries to critique feminism. And it basically is just this idea that modern feminism has gone too far, leading to men being unfairly treated in society, usually in court, education, or media. And while yes, men do face some social issues, especially when it comes to mental health, stigma, lack of support for fathers, and just a lack of care, and God, even in places like the foster system and family court system, this is not what feminism is trying to do. Real feminist individuals do not want this type of shit to exist. Because feminism consistently seeks equality. That's the thing about feminism. It is a movement for gender equality. So when a man is complaining that the family court system is heavily biased against fathers and mental health stigma against men is a huge problem, a feminist will hear that and will fight to improve those situations. Because that is what feminism is about. It is about gender equality and helping the genders come together. Because that's actual feminism. That's what feminism is supposed to be for. And trying to portray feminism as nothing but a bunch of misandrous people who don't give a shit about men at all is fucked up. Because no actual feminist believes in female superiority. They don't believe that we should just get rid of all the men. Alright, actual feminists don't say or don't genuinely believe that all men are inherently the reason society sucks. A lot of them will say this because they're angry and frustrated. That happens a lot when people are creating movements and fighting by them. But it's not the actual literal thing that they're saying. Men are not literally the whole reason society sucks, alright? Not every little man or young boy or older man is inherently responsible for all this shit. Alright? And I feel like a lot of feminists clearly disagree with this type of shit. Alright? Red pill discourse often conflates these individual cases of injustice and just shitty women doing shitty things with systemic bias, resulting in resentment instead of a productive dialogue. Because while yes, we do have systems that are heavily biased against young men and especially young boys, these systems were made by the men of the past. And the men of the present who don't care about this shit are often the ones who make it worse for the men of the future. and the men of today. And actual feminists are fighting against this shit. Feminists will fight for fathers to have their children in their life and to get more social support for them to actually be able to take care of their kids. Real feminists actively fight against the mistreatment of young boys in the foster care system. All right, real feminists will basically say that, hey, young boys and men need programs to help them, become stronger individuals who can help benefit society. That's real feminism. But of course, red pill individuals won't tell you that because they'll just act like feminism as a whole is just misandry, which is fucking stupid. And honestly, the thing that really does kind of makes me genuinely angry is the whole sexual marketplace theory, where they basically treat relationships like they're an economic market, where men and women have sexual market value that determines their worth in dating, where if a woman has a body count of a certain amount, then that somehow means that she's no longer worth dating or she's no longer worth being with. And don't even get me started on if a man has a high body count, it means he's an alpha who only knows how to please a woman and can make women fall all over him and shit like that. Honestly, this just reduces humans' relationships to transactions, ignoring love, empathy, and personal growth. It reinforces unrealistic beauty standards and ageism, especially against women, and can lead to self-esteem issues and objectification of both genders. Like, I can't be the only one who sees that this red pill nonsense is just reinstating shit that we as a society are consistently trying to move past. Like, seriously. This whole sexual marketplace idea doesn't just make things worse for people who are genuinely trying to have loving and healthy relationships, but it makes it seem like just because one girl likes and enjoys sex a little bit more than another, then she's somehow worse off or somehow doesn't deserve to enjoy sex. Which, I mean, I don't have to explain how stupid that is. Because, like, believe it or not, women can have sex. That's perfectly fine. Women should be able to have sex and not feel shame for loving and having sex. Okay? Whether that be with the boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever partner they're with at the time, or whether that just be with other people that they have consensually agreed to have sex with outside of a relationship. Because cheating is wrong and all that. So, like, yeah. Like, you shouldn't treat someone worse because of it. And the same thing goes for dudes, okay? The same thing goes for dudes. Like, you can go back to see a bunch of my older TikToks of me talking about this, where I say the reason why so many women act the way that they do, or the reason why there are a lot of women out there who, are worse for having more sex, is because they're the ones that control the access to sex. And I swear to God, if I could go back in time and slap myself in the face, I would. And then I would ask my mom to slap me in the face. I'd ask my grandma to slap me in the face. I'd ask my aunt to slap me in the face. And then I would ask a bunch of other people to slap me in the face as well, because I shouldn't have never said that type of dumbass shit. Because here's the thing. If you are the type of person who genuinely believes that a woman having more sex is wrong because women control the access to sex, then you're a fucking moron. Okay? And younger me was definitely a fucking moron. Alright? Because I can't remember when I said it, but I know I definitely did say it in my earlier days on TikTok. And if someone can find that video and send it to me, please do, because I would like to roast my younger self. Because that was some stupid ass shit for me saying. Like, really fucking dumb. In every way, shape, and form. And of course, let's get into the thing that, many people often try to say is a good part of the red pill movement, which is, of course, male self-improvement, which claims that men should focus on fitness, career success, and emotional resilience instead of seeking validation from women. And I actually do kind of agree with this. I genuinely do agree with this, because this doesn't just promote discipline and self-confidence and independence, which can be beneficial for literally anybody if pursued healthily, but unfortunately a lot of red pill circles often like, they often break this down into something inherently toxic when it's framed as a way to be dominant or manipulative, others than, actually trying to grow authentically. Because I do believe a lot of men do need to have self-improvement. They do need to focus on having healthier bodies, on building their careers, and having a good amount of emotional resilience. Because yes, obviously it is perfectly fine to be emotional. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel your feelings. But yeah, if you're breaking down after getting insulted a few times, if you cry in situations where it's not appropriate, it can definitely make things come off as... kind of lackluster and kind of messy, But this should be a way for you to learn to not only control your emotions, but also to understand them. And unfortunately, a lot of red pill individuals will basically use this as an excuse to be manipulative towards any women that they're around, and definitely towards people who don't deserve to be emotionally manipulated, which is exactly what a lot of people will try and tell you to do in these situations. They'll give you advice about when you should cry, or when you should reveal your emotions, or when you should let out your anger, at the specific moment to get a reaction out of somebody else, which I really shouldn't have to tell you is stupid. You should know that being an emotionally manipulative little bitch is not a good idea. Alright? And of course, the last and probably the most idiotic thing that I feel like I should talk about when it comes to this is the feminine imperative, aka that society secretly revolves around empowering women at men's expense. This is just a dumb conspiracy theory, and not a fun one like there are lizard people controlling the world or aliens built the pyramids. No, it's literally just a dumb conspiracy theory that oversimplifies our complex social systems and ignores how our patriarchal structure consistently harms both men and women, as it puts a lot of pressure on men to be a certain way in order to be considered a real man. And God, there are just so many fucking ways it's hurt women. Like, literally, our patriarchal system has literally prevented women from just being able to exist. Literally, it just prevents them from fucking existing normally. And it is so disgusting. Like, you guys know that the chainsaw was invented for women's surgery, right? Yeah. And don't even get me started on how our system literally makes it so that doctors genuinely believe that black women are overreacting when they're talking about their pain. This type of shit doesn't just piss me off. It makes me genuinely frustrated in ways that I could not physically fathom. And it really is just... it's just idiotic. Okay? So yeah, basically, red pill individuals are not a good... they're not a good place to be. It's not good to believe in because they constantly promote stereotypes and mistrust between the genders, relies on pseudoscience or oversimplified biology. They discourage vulnerability and empathy. They treat dating as if it's manipulation rather than connection. It fuels online misogyny and hostility towards women, and it often treats self-improvement and personal responsibility and confidence as a way to basically make things, easier to do all the other things I just mentioned. So yeah, all of that is why I hate the red pill movement. And I'm sure there's probably a lot more stuff that I haven't talked about, but unfortunately we have to move on because now it's time to talk about the darker pill, aka the black pill. And Jesus Christ, this one is just idiotic. Because the black pill ideology in and of itself is mostly just an offshoot of the red pill philosophy. But it takes on this idea of just fatalistic and nihilistic idiocracy. I say idiocracy a lot, don't I? Anyway, basically, whereas red pill individuals believe that they can improve themselves, and I'm putting that in, some big air quotes. Let me just, make the air quotes a little bigger. Let me add a question mark and a WTF sticker right next to that. So while yes, it says improves themselves with all the things it just added, Black Pill instead believes that the system, especially sexual and social hierarchies, is inherently fixed and impossible to change. Now, I'm just going to quickly explain something to everybody. I hate nihilism. I generally think nihilism as a concept is stupid. Because nihilism is under the idea that the world will never improve no matter what. And that is just bullshit. Because no matter how terrible the world has gotten, things have always been able to improve. Even, hell, I'm even going to say that even nowadays, when we live in a world where the worst people are in charge right now, and there are wars being waged because people just want to completely and utterly eradicate entire other people from existing, I still genuinely believe that this shit can improve and get better because we have good people who are consistently fighting to make the world a better place. Okay? I genuinely believe that no matter how bad shit gets, there is always going to be sunshine on the other side. There's always going to be something on the other side. Because even though the world has unfortunately let some of the worst things happen to it, we've seen throughout history that life has been able to improve. And that every time a new disaster shows up, and a new problem comes in, and a new issue just peeks its little head out and starts causing chaos, someone, somewhere, and somebody or something is going to look at that and say, this is wrong. And they're going to rally people. They're going to bring other individuals together. And one day, it may not be today, heck, it might even be a few years from now, but one day things are going to change and life will get better. I believe that. I genuinely believe that because we're seeing it now. All right, the No Kings protest that's going on at the moment because, you know, our president consistently keeps trying to put himself off as a literal king of America. The fact that there are people who are actively trying to help Ukrainian individuals fight against Russia. The amount of GoFundMes that have been fully funded on both Twitter and Facebook and TikTok of people who are genuinely like being able to raise money so that they can get out of Palestine and hopefully bring their culture over here to America in safer places, because I highly doubt any country is going to actually stop Israel, at least with all the bullshit that's been going on. Like, realistically, things can and will improve. They may not improve in the best of ways, but they can and will get better. So nihilism as a whole is just a stupid mindset to have, because there's always at least something good in this world that you should at least be willing to look forward to. So let's talk about why Black Pill bullshit is incredibly stupid. Because, while everything I kind of just said is just, you know, how everything I kind of just said pretty much debunks Black Pill, there are specific things that these people believe in that I should probably talk about, you know, so I can at least sound like I am somewhat professional on this, even though I'm really not. But anyway, basically, they have this idiotic idea of genetic determinism, where they believe that looks are inherently everything. They claim that physical appearance, height, and facial symmetry determines all romantic and social success. Basically, attractive men, or aka the Chads, get all women, and unattractive men are permanently excluded. This just is a really idiotic oversimplification of human attraction. Psychologically and emotional compatibilities are often major factors when it comes to real relationship. And all this does is promote self-hatred, depression, and body dysmorphia. Plus, studies will often show that confidence, humor, and kindness are usually significantly the thing that can create attractiveness, even if you don't think you are an attractive person. Yeah, personality will always be the thing that determines whether or not someone can and will truly love you, no matter how many muscles you have or how well your face is. Hell, everyone to some extent thinks they're ugly, at least in some cases. But the thing is, most people will still find you attractive. There are tons of people on TikTok that I follow who consistently call themselves ugly or, try to talk about the flaws on their faces. And a part of me would just look at them and be like, the fuck are you talking about? You're adorable, or you're handsome, or you look really good, and I'll even do this to myself. Literally, I will do this to myself, and then there will be like some of my female friends, or heck, even girls who have said that they like me in the past, will call me handsome. They will say I look like a handsome guy, or I look like a good looking dude. Not the other day, but like I think a few months ago, my uncle was kind of getting on me because I don't really take care of my hair that well. I should definitely get better at that. And he was like, Josh, you are a good looking dude. You're not ugly. You just need to take care of yourself better. And I'm over here like, really? Because this whole time, like one of the reasons I don't take care of my hair that well is because deep down I do kind of feel like an ugly motherfucker. But lo and behold, there is nothing genetic that determines whether or not you're ugly or not. Even if you've been in a horrible accident and have scars, there are people who will still find your ass beautiful. Okay? And as long as you are inherently a good fucking person, guess what? That by itself will lead to people genuinely loving you and seeing you as a much more attractive individual. Like, that's it. That's literally all it is. Then, of course, you get to this whole social hierarchy fatalism, which is basically just the whole idea that society is a rigid pyramid where high-status individuals monopolize dating and resources, and there's no point in trying to, improve. Even though this completely fails to account for social mobility, personal growth, and, of course, changing life circumstances. Like, literally, everything in life is consistently changing, Not only that, but it also just encourages hopelessness and even turns the whole self-improvement part of red pill, literally the one and only thing the red pill individuals have that's kind of positive, into just despair and resentment, which never leads to anything good whatsoever. Because, believe it or not, well, yes, there are parts of society that will discourage you from trying to improve yourself. They're usually doing that because they know that if you improve yourself, you're not only going to be on the same level as them, but you could potentially get higher than them. Want to know why rich people keep getting richer and poor people keep getting poorer? Because if poor people were able to get rich as easy as the rich people did, then lo and behold, society would be a lot more equal. And rich people don't want that. So believe it or not, if you think someone's trying to keep you down, it's because they know that as long as you work hard and actively try to improve yourself, you're going to be better than them. And that makes them weep and cry at night. And of course, like most of these pill idiotic ideas, misogyny and dehumanization. Basically, a lot of these individuals believe that women are inherently portrayed as shallow, manipulative, and incapable of loving men for who they are. Which is stupid. I mean, I already explained how in the red pill individual situation that's stupid, but this idiotic generalization, again, just devalues empathy and humanity. It reinforces bitterness rather than understanding and communications, and this actually prevents healthy social interactions and fuels toxic communities, because, well, it's just sexism. Do I really need to explain why sexism is bad? I really shouldn't. Because it's sexism. We know why this is bad. Ugh. And of course, the whole dating market is rigged bullshit, which is... Look, I can actually admit that, yes, I do agree that a lot of apps in modern dating culture does overwhelmingly favor attractive men. But the thing is, while dating apps do emphasize visuals, this does not reflect all dating context, alright? And look, while yes, this can definitely lead to some external factors being to blame for why it might be harder for you to get a date, you do have to understand that that's not the only reason you can't get a date, alright? Fostering emotional intelligence and adaptability is important and can often allow you to find individuals who genuinely can and will be interested in you. Plus, there are tons of success stories of people who meet both online and offline through shared interest. Hell, I know for a goddamn fact that one time that I actually was able to get a few dates with a girl was because I ended up meeting her in my art class in college. Sorry, not college, high school. And like a year and a half later, I asked her out and we went on a couple dates. That art class was an extracurricular, by the way. It was just one that didn't really take up too much time, so I was able to do it pretty easily. And even though I didn't stay in the class, I still met that really great girl there, and everything was pretty cool. And of course, I'm pretty sure I can already explain how this idiotic idea is just a bunch of, it's just a bunch of overwhelming bullcrap that just completely rejects self-improvement and has an idiotic victimhood mentality that leads to nothing but nihilism towards society. Which really is just the whole reason the black pill ideology is so stupid and really fails when you actually think about it for more than 5 seconds. Look, I understand that yes, society can fuck over people, but this encourages blaming society as a whole instead of actively developing coping strategies or empathy. And it creates a community built on shared suffering, which reinforces these idiotic defeatist attitudes. Because while yes, a community built on shared suffering can oftentimes lead to that community looking at the problems and wanting to change them, black-pilled individuals don't care about that. They want to wallow in their own sorrow and just make the world a worse place for everybody else. And that sucks. Because this idiotic crap is only going to lead to more young men believing that they don't have a chance to be better. Which is stupid, because being better is the thing that can fix all of these issues and problems. All you have to do is work on yourself, alright? Become a better person. Work out, alright? Find some easy but well-paying jobs to make some decent money. Then advance your career to something greater. Hell, I'm pretty sure if you work hard enough, you won't just have a girlfriend, but you'll have an entire family of people who love and cherish you. Hell, I was able to fucking do it, and I don't even know how. I mean, I do know how. I posted a lot of videos on TikTok, I made content, and I focused on myself. But the main point is that, well, if I, a guy who literally still thinks he's kind of ugly to this day, can have an entire online community of friends who I genuinely love and cherish, you can too. And it's not just about dating either. Having a healthy and loving relationship also requires you to understand and interact with other people as well. I wouldn't have been able to join groups like the Tim Game Boys or Meet My Homeboys, Damon, DJ, The Velvet Sparrow, and The Dark Detective if it wasn't for me just putting myself out there and trying to connect with other people. And I'm genuinely happy I did that, because I wouldn't have these people in my life if I never did. And a lot of you black pill individuals need to stop pushing the idea that there is nothing you can do. Because me and all of the guys out there who have actually put in the effort and the work are physical proof that that's not true. So let's talk about the last of these pills. Basically the blue pill, which is another term that comes from the Matrix, and it's a pill that allows someone to remain comfortable in illusion rather than confront harsh truths. And, well, let's just say that while the blue pill is often way more healthy and actively has a lot better ideas than the red pill, and even way better than the black pill, it does still have its faults that I believe a lot of young men should probably go out of their way to avoid. Specifically, the belief in romantic idealism, that true love conquers all and emotional connection is the foundation of every relationship. And this is actually true. Being kind and empathetic can obviously lead to, well, genuinely amazing and honestly some of the best emotional connections you will ever have in your entire life. However, this can also lead to unrealistic expectations because love alone doesn't fix incompatibilities or personal issues, and it can also lead to you overlooking red flags and staying in unhealthy relationship for love's sake, which is not healthy in any way, shape, and form. Because no amount of love and loving someone enough is going to change them to being more compatible with you. Sure, there are compromises people are willing to make in relationships, but a lot of the time there are just some things that people aren't willing to do for their partner. And if you are the type of person who needs a partner that is willing to do certain things for you, and the partner you have just isn't willing to do that, then the healthiest option is to find someone who can give that to you. Perfect example of this is surprisingly sex. Yeah, sexual incompatibility is an issue that a lot of relationships often fall into, and I feel like a lot of people should probably talk about their sexual incompatibilities very early on in a relationship. Obviously, not the first date or anything like that, but this seems to be one of the biggest complaints that I see everywhere on the internet. And if this is such a huge deal breaker with you, using love or saying, oh, I love them so I can overcome this, can definitely work for some relationships, but incompatibilities like this will oftentimes lead to the relationship becoming inherently unhealthy, especially if your sexual incompatibility is a genuine red flag. And don't even get me started on certain things like political ideas or the fact that somebody's family might secretly be racist or something. That, in and of itself, can and will lead to more problems that I know a lot of people just really are not prepared to deal with. The second one that I actually also, again, understand and genuinely believe is really, really a good concept is, of course, faith in equality and fairness, which is great, actually. Men and women are fundamentally equal and, of course, are capable of working together. And obviously, relationships should be cooperative and not competitive. And this obviously encourages mutual respect and shared responsibility in a lot of relationships between a lot of different people. And this is just, again, a healthy mindset to have when going into a relationship. However, a lot of blue pill individuals can take this so far to be more or less not. I guess what I'm trying to say is a lot of blue pill individuals will often take this to the point where they completely underestimate biological, psychological, and even cultural differences in dating behavior, and can even ignore systemic issues like male mental health stigma or gender double standards by assuming this type of fairness already exists with a lot of people. Unfortunately, there are a lot of problems in society and with a lot of different women in how they are raised to date and what they are raised to look for in a man. They are often stigmatized and treated poorly if they stay with a man who has a mental breakdown or is suffering from something. And don't even get me started on the whole money situation. Plus, when it comes down to it, depending on the culture you're dating in, or depending on the culture the person you are dating with comes from, can oftentimes lead to a lot of differences that just are not inherently equal at all, and can unfortunately lead to a lot of issues, arguments, and problems that a lot of individuals could have easily avoided if they just openly communicated about these things first and worked together, instead of just assuming that this person was going to treat you the way you wanted them to treat you. This often leads to a lot of individuals ignoring the potential things that should be dealt with, and unfortunately, let's just say a lot of times this can lead to, well, an unfair belief in traditional relationship structures. Yeah, this is something I feel like a lot of people often consistently ignore about blue pill ideas, and that's the idea that marriage and commitment are the ultimate goals in social institutions. And of course, they also believe that these social institutions, like law, culture, and religion, are inherently designed to support love and family, which unfortunately can lead to these people overlooking how a lot of these institutions can definitely be a disadvantage to one side, such as unfair custody laws and outdated gender roles. And don't even get me started on the fact that a lot of times there are blue pill individuals, and especially red and black pill individuals, that will consistently shame people who don't fit traditional molds. Usually people who are inherently single by choice, and of course same-sex couples or non-traditional families. I didn't mention the amounts of homophobia that comes from the red pill community and the black pill community, because I plan on going over homophobia in its own episode, but to be completely honest with you, when it comes down to it, all these pill ideologies do have inherent homophobia. Fucking hell, I am just fucking up a lot, aren't I? They do have inherent homophobia, there we go, within a lot of their belief systems. With red pill individuals believing that being gay or lesbian or just anything that isn't straight is somehow that inherently goes against their biological rhetoric, basically the alpha male, beta male shit. And of course, black pill individuals believing that if you are a part of any type of LGBT system, that somehow means you are, well, inherently making life worse for yourself, because life already sucks, so you shouldn't even try. And if you're trying to find a partner in any other type of sexuality, then you're just basically putting yourself up for a much worse life. So coming out and being who you truly are is inherently pointless. The blue pill, unfortunately, often consistently pushes traditional roles in a way that can often sometimes be sort of backhanded, where they use these traditional ideas or try to use the more positive sides of these traditional ideas only for it to sort of, again, kind of backfire, in the sense that not only have I already gone over a lot of these different things of how it can usually, backfire, but again, as just stated, it will lead to a lot of blue pill individuals often believing that other types of relationships and other types of people who experience relationships differently, that they're somehow inherently doing it wrong. Plus, it leads to a lot of unfair optimism about society. Basically just people thinking that the world is genuinely fair, and if you work hard and treat others well, good things will come to you. And while this does encourage hope and motivation and pro-social behavior, again, this can easily lead to naive idealism. Not everyone gets fair treatment due to biases, inequality, or just circumstances. And over-trusting in systems will blind someone to real power imbalances or exploitation. And it just sucks. And believe it or not, even I can admit that sometimes an emphasis on emotional connection over strategy can sometimes be a bad thing. Because while yes, this will encourage authenticity, empathy, and long-term compatibility, which are fantastic, it can often make you incredibly vulnerable to manipulative people if they assume everyone else plays by the same rules. And it will often lead to people taking advantage of you in ways you probably don't want them to, because you're going into a relationship assuming that the person you are with cares about you without really paying attention to certain things that could easily let you know that they are probably not the best person to be around. Plus, it often overlooks that confidence, assertiveness, and boundaries are necessary for a healthy relationship. Being a yes man or yes woman to somebody can and will often lead to things getting worse. So yeah, it's not really a good thing. But you want to know what I think? I don't think any young man needs these pill ideologies, okay? I genuinely don't. Alright, I know some people will say, oh, maybe there's this purple pill, which is just a blend of all of them. But in reality, that just sounds like what a lot of young men kind of already need to do. Because look, young men in general, please listen. If you are listening, hear me out. Realistically, society is going to fuck you over. People don't really care about you unless they've already shown you that care. And depending on what race you are, depending on what sexuality you are, depending on what nationality you are, there's gonna be things in this world that will be a lot more difficult for you or downright impossible. But if you want a solution to all of your problems, a solution that can help you crack the code, something that can help you understand how to be a better man and fight for the type of life you want, you just need to remember this one very simple phrase. Love yourself. That's all you have to do. Because a lot of these issues and problems that lead to a lot of young men falling down these pill ideologies is that they don't love themselves. And they're often discouraged from loving themselves or seeing themselves as good because they live in a society where the older men of the world have a lot of control. And those men often do shitty things. They live in a society where the majority of rapists, sexual assaultists, and fucking murderers are men. And that label is slapped on all men a lot of times by really bad people. And don't even get me started on the fact that a lot of young men are still raised to act traditional in some ways, but are discouraged from acting traditional in other ways. It's confusing as fuck and can and will lead to things being a lot more difficult for a lot of young men. But really, all young men really need to do is love themselves. When they screw up and make a mistake, obviously they should, have some discipline and beat themselves up. But realistically, they just need to love themselves. They need to show themselves love and care. They need to take care of themselves. They need to work out and be confident and show and focus on themselves, focus on their careers, and do all of these things. But they should never do it at the expense of others. Because loving yourself is not putting other people down. That's just arrogance. And that's the last thing any young man needs. But if there's one thing that I know a lot of you young men definitely need to remember, is that when you are loving yourself, you are loving others. You're loving your mother, your brother, your sister, your fathers, your grandparents. You're loving them too. Because there is no guarantee that you're going to end up in a relationship with someone. There is no guarantee that you're going to end up with a very high-paying job. There is no guarantee that you are going to beat your way out of a circumstance that you don't like. There is no guarantee for anything in life. And these pill ideologies oversimplify shit and make it seem like everything is just figured out already. That they have the whole world ready to give to you. But you are that world. You are that world. And you need to give that world to yourself. You need to work hard. You need to wake up with a smile on your face, and you need to love yourself. Because life sucks. And as a young man, we need you to help fix it. Because men are important to society. All right, men belong in society. Sure, we may not be used for the things that we used to be used for. Sure, we may not be hunting. We may not be, constantly pumping out babies and shit like that. All right, we may not be leaders of our communities in the same way we used to be. But that doesn't mean we don't matter. We don't need to fit the roles society tells us we need to fit. We just need to be ourselves. And young men, as long as you love yourself, and as long as you realize you don't need someone to tell you over and over and over what you're doing wrong and what you should be doing to fix all of that, as long as you're capable of looking at the people around you, learning from your society, learning from your people, learning from your mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers, making connections, and truly fighting to be a better person, then you can and will be the man that makes the world a better place. Sure, you won't change every aspect of society, but you'll make somebody happy. Whether it be your future kids, your future romantic partners, your future or current siblings, your parents. But most importantly, you'll make yourself happy. And that is all you need to do. Thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned for the next episode, and remember, life sucks, so let's fix it.